Welcome to the Orange Hammer Podcast. My name is Storyk. I've been a licensed general contractor for 8+ years, specializing in new construction, renovation, furniture building. I'm the son of an architect and an interior designer, and I've been surrounded in this industry since birth, watching all aspects from concept, design, build, punch list, and of course, all the problems that come up in between. In my time in Durham, North Carolina, I've noticed a significant gap in knowledge between homeowners who need work and the people who do the work. On this podcast, I hope to break down the process of homeownership from the perspective of both the homeowner and the contractor in an effort to help raise the knowledge of homeowners about their homes and the construction/renovation process. I hope you enjoy. If you're enjoying the Orange Hammer Podcast, or if you have a topic that you want covered, or have recently done a project, please contact the Orange Hammer Podcast. The Orange Hammer Podcast is on Instagram and Facebook. Please like and subscribe, share on whatever platform you're enjoying your podcast on. Also, check out our YouTube channel, The Orange Hammer. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by CRS Contracting LLC for all your construction and handyman needs, new buildings to renovations, furniture building, EV charger install, or even a TV mounted. You can call me, Storyk. It'd be my pleasure to help you. You can find me on Instagram at CRS Contracting. WSDG, the Walters-Storyk Design Group, specialists in architectural and acoustical consulting. Check out WSDG.com. And Taylor Bragg, for all your artistic needs in all mediums. You can find her on Instagram at brag_about_art. That's brag, BRGG, with 2 G's. She's the fantastic artist behind the Orange Hammer logo, and she did my fantastic table painting of my podcasting table. Welcome, everybody. Today could be the most special podcast to date. I am joined today by my first boss, my forever boss, and the one and only my mom, Beth Walters-Storyk. Mom, how are you today?
I'm doing just fine. Nice to see you in this environment.
I know. It's a first for both of us. My dad, John, was gracious enough to come last week. So getting you both before you leave the state of North Carolina, which is good. So, man, I didn't do an intro for you because I feel like the intro would be half the podcast. Your checklist of stuff is very, very cool and impressive. And in relation to this podcast, we get to go almost all the way back, beyond starting.
There's been a few chapters. So we'll give the cliff notes going backwards, but then I'd love some more stories. So recently, amazing painter. Before that, interior designer of amazing recording studios, above other things than recording studios, with WSDG, your husband, my dad, partner, the W of WSDG. And then before that, most notably, FIT. Installations at the galleries at the Fashion Institute. Yep.
Yeah. And before that, going to FIT as a student.
Yeah.
And really, to then jump into a question, before FIT, you're now in high school. Does the passion start in high school for art/interior design, or is it earlier?
Well, I went to a very specialized high school, the High School of Music and Art in New York.
Okay, so I think I actually forgot about that. So it must have started before that, because you don't just go there thinking you like music and art.
No, you had to apply and get accepted. Yeah, and that was a fantastic experience.
So when in some early years, when does art design become such a big passion?
Okay, there's just a very interesting memory of being in the 6th grade and doing this painting that got hung up in the hallway of a fireplace in a room and with perspective and bricks, and I just remember that being unusually good for a 6th grader. So
you did this painting?
I did the painting, but after that, it was just I always was drawn to the art classes, to anything that was creative, and those teachers always continued to inspire me. So it just was sort of a puzzle
that just kept adding pieces, and that's how I kind of view my whole life actually as a puzzle that keeps adding pieces to it. And
it's
getting
very
bigger.
interesting that both you and your husband, my dad, John, very, very early knew there was a calling. And you're in a very small, I would say, borderline privileged group of people to discover a passion early, follow that passion, and make a living off of it. Not everybody can do that. You know, the term starving artist is way more starving artists than ones who make it. And that's unique.
I don't know if I knew where it was all going to go.
No, nobody could ever know where it was going to go. I'm just saying, to look back now,
Yeah.
you get to go, well, I kind of wanted to be an artist, and I kind of did become an artist.
Yeah, well, I guess I came back full circle to wanting to be an artist and actually doing it. And for 5 years, I was telling my group, my team at WSDG, when we would sit around our circle at the end of the year, where everybody would talk about where they were going, and I would say, you know, guys, I know I'm the president of this company, but I really need and want to paint again, and I'm not sure how we're going to work that out. And then one day, I just put all the sample books in the middle of the room and said, get them out of here. I'm going to do something else. And
so you're at that point, you and my dad, and you brought on some other people at that point, and Pop kind of, for those who are wondering, I call my dad Pop. My brother and I have different dads. It just became easier. He calls his dad. We call our dad Pop. It's just whatever. So if you hear me call Pop, that's John Storyk. So at this point, you and Pop, very successful business, so much to the point where you've brought in lifelong company employees to be able to buy some of the company. We don't have to get through those details, but who did you, and I don't need names,
did I train?
Who did you train? Who did you pass
Sylvia.
on? And
Sylvia.
when was there a comfort level of, you no longer need to be trained, I can give you the reins?
We just kept working together, and she would take on more and more of the inspiration that was being shared with clients. And technically, she actually started to surpass me. You know, she was just able to do these fantastic presentations. We would do them together, of course. And one day, I just realized that I admired her work and her tenacity and her design sense, and she got it. She was furthering the vibe of WSDG, and our clients loved her. And I mean, I'm still involved in the company. Don't get me wrong. I'm a consultant to the company. I'm involved in all major decisions, and I'm a go-to person when there are issues, HR issues, or what have you. And I am still John Storyk's partner. I'm still the president of the company. So there's always, we've never been busier. And yet I'm not dealing with clients anymore.
Does Sylvia ever hey, I just need the master, and you get an email?
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
But I let her figure it out for the
Okay.
most part. Now she has a team behind
Gotcha.
her as well. So everybody, it's like the birds have left the nest. Everyone's doing their thing. It's quite remarkable, actually, and we're very proud.
Well, I know, Sylvia, you got to, for lack of a better term and an oversimplification, you got to promote from within instead of bringing someone from the outside.
We all, as a company, we believe in that. We
yeah,
always promote from within.
I am not I'm not involved in the company per se, other than having watched it my whole life as your kid, and even I can see that there is a culture at WSDG that is amazing, and it's definitely
it's unusual. It's a family, but it's a business. It's not. We are very professional.
Yes, but also you said you're a family, and I think that is felt by your employees who know that business must get done, but there is a family interaction that not every multi-country, almost 100 people company can say. So I think I know it's something you should be proud of.
There's a lot of respect for the talent, for what everybody does, and everybody feels that. It was, people really do work together. I mean, remember, we've got people in Switzerland, we've got people in Latin America, we've got people, in different parts of the country, and it's as if we're in the same office. So
technology really helped you guys.
Really, technology,
Skype, GoToMeeting, Zoom, all that glorious stuff. That,
and then we all meet. We all try to meet once a year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, what do you call them? The globals?
The global. Yeah.
So that's kind of cool right there. Not a lot of companies do that, at least that I know of.
I don't know. People have retreats.
Yeah.
People have retreats.
I guess that's
you
true.
want to get, but we try to get everybody in the global, not just the hierarchy.
That's what I mean.
So
that's what I mean.
That becomes, and now it's become, it gets pretty extensive.
Logistically, that's becoming a nightmare.
But we've been able to do it. We haven't been able to do it, obviously, because of COVID world.
Yeah.
But,
I believe
we'll do it again.
I believe I was at the first global.
In Latin America. In Buenos Aires.
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was a youngin'.
You were a youngin'.
Yeah.
You got to travel a bit.
I got to travel literally across the world before I was even in high school.
Right.
Because, and I don't want this to come off for listeners incorrectly, I value education very highly. But in third grade, skipping a week, not as important as the culture you'll see in any other country with your parents, Italy, Switzerland, France, whatever it may be. Obviously, as I got into high school, I started to fear the falling behind by taking like a 2-week trip. So there were definitely some ones where I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't go.
Well, I think we made that decision that you wouldn't go.
Well, true, but there were conversations. There was a point when it was a conversation when I was still young enough in your eyes to sacrifice a week of school, and I was like, I don't really want to sacrifice a week of school, or maybe I thought my basketball game was more important. In retrospect, I should have never not gone on any trip because they were all amazing, and I look back at them now like.
Well, they weren't tourist trips; they were business trips,
yes,
which became very interesting because you see different things.
The restaurant.
And our clients are usually pretty unusual people.
That's true. And when you go to, hypothetically, to meet a client in Italy, he's not going to take you to the, equivalent of a chain restaurant in Italy. He's going to take you to like his super cool hole-in-the-wall restaurant. Exactly. So there was just an extra level of culture.
Remember eating noodles in Beijing?
I do. Noodles in Beijing. So
No, Shanghai.
Shanghai, oh, correct.
That's
yes,
right.
Absolutely, Shanghai. I've never been to Beijing.
The little alleyway.
Yeah, so if you walked by this place, you would have thought that there was a nice restaurant and a nice restaurant, and in between it, the kitchen to both restaurants. That's what it looked like, with no roof and no tables and no chairs. But it turns out that was, in fact, a restaurant by itself, and it really was just a to-go spot.
I can't believe we ate that.
There was what looked like a student eating, and we said, can we eat here? And next thing you know, we're sitting on like a plastic chair with a broken armrest, a table with a matchbox.
But our guy he knew the place. He went there a lot. So, yeah.
Well, once again, that kind of goes back to the point of like you had a guide who had a friend, and they both knew the area. They spoke the language. Obviously, that helps a little bit. It's, we're more of a Spanish is kind of imprinted in us. Chinese is very difficult. But I mean, this bowl of soup, like ramen, basically with like a duck leg. I mean, I don't know what the conversion was, but it might have been $3 each, and it was one of the best giant bowls of ramen.
Considering that night we went to a
Michelin
super fancy.
It's true,
right?
It's true. My only ever Michelin experience.
I'd never even looked at a menu. Yeah.
Well, that menu was as thick as a college textbook. I remember that.
We didn't.
No, that lady
we didn't order anything.
The client's girlfriend, I think, was like, I got this, and just, the duck. I remember that duck. And I was sick that day, and I still remember that meal being, it's the only Michelin restaurant I've ever been to
me too.
in my life.
Yeah.
I thought you told me you had been to one in California. The Laundry?
The Laundry. I think your sister's been there.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
your dad's been there.
Oh, okay. Not that, honestly, I'm
Yeah.
interested in that kind of dining. I find it to be strange. But anyway, circling it back.
We digress.
We digress. Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so we're bringing it back a little bit.
And now it has gone from being also a painter to a developer here in Durham.
Yeah.
And designer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll get
of renovations.
Yeah, yeah. I guess we kind of pulled you into this design thing, which we'll detail a little bit more as we go through the chapters, before you retired and became a painter. Oh, quasi-retired. I don't know what term you use and or are comfortable with. So, but backing up a little bit, high school and music and art, what's the audition like? Do you give a painting? Do you have to go talk to somebody?
Yeah. You have to come with a portfolio of your work that you've done now in junior high school, or scrambling in the 9th grade, and then an interview, and you have to do a test, an actual drawing test. Yeah,
A drawing test. Like, here's a phone, sketch it.
I don't remember what the test was, but I remember that it was with paper, pencil, markers.
Draw this box of fruit or something like that. You know.
It was just something.
Okay,
yeah.
so now you graduate high school in music and art. At what point does FIT jump to the radar?
Well, I don't think I was going away to college.
Growing up in Manhattan, you wanted to stay.
It wasn't in the radar that I was.
I mean, you're surrounded in one of the biggest cultural melting pots on earth.
We were in the late '60s. I don't know. FIT just seemed like the right fit. It was a state university. It had a great reputation. It was a bike ride away from where I lived.
Do you also have to, bring a portfolio and kind of audition to get in, for lack of a better term?
Portfolio and interview. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I was a textile design major, and then I home furnishing textiles. I loved it. Was good at it. And then...
So for those who might not know what that means, home furnishing textiles, like the cloth that covers the chair?
Things that, be home furnishings versus apparel.
Right.
Which moves much more quickly in that industry. Home furnishings are a little bit more there to stay.
So are you designing the chair, or a carpenter handed you a chair and said, pick the color for the pillow or the cushion?
I am designing the fabric, the wall covering, the carpets, the stationery, the understanding how these are produced, put into repeat, different methods of producing fabrics, wallpapers, batiks, just woven, how things are woven,
everything
how carpets
but
are made,
clothes.
Everything but, not clothes, but what would be on clothing.
Okay.
You know how you'd buy shirts, stripes and flowers. And I mean, I painted so many flowers.
Well, you are very good at painting flowers. If you look at your work today,
well,
there's a lot of flowers.
Yeah. It was fun. It was good. I enjoyed it.
I believe you painted, or you do paint, the Mother's Day flower arrangement yearly from your sons.
That's what I do. Yeah.
There you go.
That's one of the things.
One of many things you paint. Yeah. So, okay. So, home furnishing textile design,
right,
which obviously leads perfectly into partnering with my dad, the architect.
No, there's a block before that.
No, I know there's a block before that, but I'm saying that skill set.
Well, what happened was I was really a colorist. I really understand color. And so when I met your dad and I was watching their work on Union Square, he had his office, and I'd be there and I'd watch the work product, and I noticed how, there was a lot of wood and a lot of brown, and, these are recording studios for people who have very, distinct personalities. And it wasn't even a recording studio, it was a doctor's office. That was the project at the moment. I said, you know what, I'll just figure this out, what it's going to look like. So I really didn't have an interior design background, but it's like I said, it's a puzzle. It wasn't so hard to figure out what goes with what and what people look best in and work best in and what kind of environment they'll, be comfortable in. And I did that project. And he said, well, then why don't you help me do this project? And everything that was brown was no longer brown. And that's how it all started. And that's how I became partners with him.
So if you were to be talking right now to a younger listener who thinks being an interior designer is for them, what maybe would you suggest as far as like how to get into that? Because to me, watching you, I've just grown up being like, some people, like my mom, have taste and style and some people don't. But it's obviously more complicated than that, because somebody with great taste and style on how to dress themselves might have no idea how to start picking wall colors for a machine factory or a recording studio or a soccer stadium or fill in the blank. So it's obviously bigger than one's personal taste and style, because your personal taste and style might be a bit of an influence, but you have to meet a stranger basically.
That's correct.
And absorb their taste and
absorb
style
what they want,
and make them happy.
Well, you kind of have to know what's in the industry, what's out there and what's available. So, I've been going to NeoCon,
which is a trade show for those who don't know.
It's a trade show in Chicago, probably the largest in the country, in June. But, that ties into what I did before, which was working for the galleries at FIT, where I did display construction. I actually, I had power tools. I actually was helping build sets, but within building the sets, there'd be decoration in the sets, and I would be called upon to paint the backdrops and, help with the mannequins and the period of the hairstyle. If you're doing something from the turn of the century, they looked very different than if you were doing a current designer. So I learned an awful lot about periods of history, and I would guess that anybody who wants to go into a specific field, like they want to be an interior designer, they have to know a little bit about art history. They have to know what different periods looked like. They have to study that. So there's many courses, there's many good schools that offer that. I mean, I came in the side door of it as a textile designer, but I had been exposed. You have to go to museums. You have to just see what the world has to offer. I mean, it all somehow filters in, hopefully sticks, and then you're able to say, hey, you're talking to a client, and I would always say to them, tear things out of books, not books, but magazines. I like this. Something about that I like. You know what? I really don't like this. This lighting's cool. Hey, this mood's cool. I love that red in that carpet. So all these little hints, someone has to be able to put that together and to, well, hey, I guess what you're saying you really like is something like this. And they either say yes or, you work on it. It's not an absolute thing. And you also always want to bring people's personalities into, it's not cookie cutter. I mean, in all life anyway, it's not cookie cutter.
No, it's the opposite. And it took me a lot of years to learn that, both professionally and personally. Give me like the worst story, the worst client, the 20,000 iterations later.
The 200 swatches to find for a sofa. I mean, come on.
Don't give me a name, because we're doing positive shout-outs.
I don't remember his name, but we did the studio. It came out great. He said, well, you want to help me do my house?
Oh,
and
okay.
I said,
so it actually wasn't the studio
No,
job.
the studios, not that they're relatively easy, but, what's easy for one person isn't easy for another. But
well, you've been doing it a long time.
Right. So we know what we're doing, and we're able to translate what is ergonomically going to work and feel good. So he said, you want to help me do that? And I said, sure. 200, so at least 200 swatches.
For one couch.
For a couch. I mean, come on.
This must have been a couch he owned that he was going to get reupholstered.
I don't think, no, he was getting a new one, and he wanted, he had a lot of money, and he couldn't make up his mind. Now, maybe it was me, but I don't remember finishing that project. I said, I don't think I'm the right person for this. Give me
the dream one. What was like the best and easiest one? Not necessarily easiest, but like the best one that you still remember that we can shout out. That was either easy or fun or
Malaysia.
both.
I loved doing our project in Malaysia.
What project did you do in Malaysia?
It's called Synchro Sound.
Oh, I know that name. Yeah.
And what was cool about it was, number one, being there. I think I took 6 trips in 1 year on Singapore Airlines to Malaysia, which was that was a year that I was away from you guys, which wasn't great. But what was cool about the job was the project was that we got to get things designed and printed locally there. We were able
to. What kind of things?
At that time, you did a lot of panels on walls, and you stretched fabric, because behind the fabric is a lot of the magic that happens in a studio. And a lot of it, all these rooms were, and we had such a unique space with great volume, and it was very tall ceilings allowed us to do these great clouds and ceiling treatments, and we were able to get the fabric designed and printed, and I taught the guys how to do it, how to wrap these panels. It was just a very iterative thing in another culture, and it was very exciting for me. And also going to India was very exciting.
I do remember when you guys went to India, assuming it was that
exciting,
trip. Yeah.
Because these, just the materials, in different parts of the world, there's different materials, and being exposed to that is also part of learning.
Yeah, different materials, different building practices, different codes.
Yeah, in Malaysia, they're wearing flip-flops and carrying, plastic bags with a straw in them. And they're on a construction site, so that you got construction workers in flip-flops.
Yeah,
which
is not allowed here.
It's not allowed, but nevertheless, that's
OSHA. We don't have OSHA here.
That's what they do, and also the melding of all the different cultures. They were Muslim, Christian, born again. They were like 5 different religions in this one group of people, and it was just a great experience. Great experience. So, I don't know if any. People say, "What's your favorite?" And generally, the favorite's the one you're working on.
Really,
I think
there's
so.
not one from 15 years ago where you're like, I just loved that one the most.
Well, I don't want to mention names. But
if it's a positive, you could mention it.
There's the New York studio that was one of my best work was with Annie.
Oh yeah, shout out Annie. We're fans of Annie. Yeah. That's
and working with Alicia. That was one of the most tasteful studios.
And you did a few. Done. You did a few for Alicia.
Well, it was two floors.
But didn't you do
and her house?
Her house in Long Island, and then she did one in Manhattan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. As she's
And then you did Annie's Jungle.
Jungle. Well, Alicia's and Jungle are intertwined.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. This is Alicia Keys, for anybody who's wondering. We're going to name drop. Yeah. I remember Josh Morrison, who's one of your employees. Great dude. Very funny. Interesting sense of humor. Musically gifted. Whatever. He couldn't resist where we do the 4-hour drive to Long Island or whatever, and we get there, and he just goes, "Oh, crap. I forgot Alicia's keys." He just couldn't resist. I was like, "Josh, man, how long have you been sitting on that?" And he was like, "I don't know. We got the job 2 years ago. I thought about it day 2. Like 2 years he had that in the can, just waiting.
Sometimes you don't hear it right away.
No, because his monotone, his delivery, I love Josh so much. I would come in from school and he would be, oh, C to the ORB every time. So I had to be like, J to the OSH, because it didn't sound as good, but it just was our silly thing. But back to the amazing family culture of your office. So we're fans of WSCG, our wonderful sponsors here. So we moved from high school in music and art to FIT to running shows for FIT. Now we're in WSCG. Oh, there's a gap missing? Mm-hmm. Okay, so after shows for FIT, what are you doing?
I get hired in the industry. I get hired by Waverly Fabrics and Cone Mills, and I am a practicing textile designer out there, 9 to 5.
And this is when you're also in Manhattan Beach and commuting?
No, not yet.
Still yet another chapter.
Not yet. Yes, okay. I said there's a lot of chapters.
There's a lot of chapters. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you have not led a boring life.
And then I go back to get some. I think I'm working at FIT sort of freelance while I'm working 9 to 5. Because whenever they would have a show, remember these shows are up for 3 to 4 to 6 months, and then you have another 6-week interval to mount a show, the next show. So I would get hired. A show
as in like a display of paintings?
No, a show as in a museum-type exhibition.
Okay.
They had an exhibition space that was quite extensive. I'm not sure about how many square feet. Could be 10,000. And we would do major museum. The museum at FIT, the fashion collection, is quite extensive. It runs neck and neck with the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And they both do exhibits, and many people have been curators at FIT, now work for the Met. And so every, twice a year for 6 weeks, I would go back there and be part of that crew. So in one of these trips, I'm back in the textile department, and I meet up with a gentleman who asks me if I want to help teach a screen printing class, part of a program for high school dropouts, English as a second language, a specialized program that FIT is doing for the community. And I say, yes, I'll do it. And I became an adjunct instructor in that program, working with these kids, teaching them a craft, a skill that they hopefully would be able to then have a profession. And it wouldn't be the last
time you taught, because you taught art for me in fourth grade or something like that.
Yeah, but this was a give back. This was good, and I did that for a while, and then I got back into more working with the galleries. California, how did that? Oh, well, that's another story. I kind of then started to commute because I wasn't working 9 to 5 anymore.
Was there an art-related job in California?
No.
Or is that just California?
Actually, I did get a job in downtown Los Angeles being a colorist for a textile converter, someone who was actually buying a pattern, and you had to color it 10 different ways to get it produced and sold, and I was their gal. But I would still commute to New York twice a year, 6 weeks each, 8 weeks, and do a show at FIT.
What was the cost of a plane ticket back then?
$99.
$99.
Get on the red eye.
Doesn't exist anymore.
No. And I'd be able to take stuff with me back and forth, right on the plane. Get there 10 minutes before.
No security.
Does not exist anymore.
Yeah, low end. I remember being a kid, and you and I went to pick Pop up. And not only did we go through security right to the gate he was walking out of, but I walked down the jet bridge halfway. And all these businessmen are walking past me, and then Pop sees me. He's like, Corbett, you're not allowed on the jet bridge. I was like, well, I'm 7 and no one stopped me. And hi, Dad. I was like, well, I'm here now. Now it's like we needed that specialty you're under 15 card to get a security guy to walk you to the plane when you would send me to Florida to visit G&G. It's very different now. It's completely changed. So California.
I'm working at FIT.
Right. And that's when you meet.
How did I get? Well, there was a little love interest, which brought me to California and back from California.
Okay.
The love interest did not exactly work out. And I met Pop.
We could say that kind of worked out.
And that kind of worked out.
Yeah, 30 plus years later,
but,
I think.
And while that was working out, was that moment of being in the office, seeing the medical studio.
And this is the 6th Avenue office, or the
Union Square.
The Union Square. Sorry, the Union Square office that Pops had.
The medical office.
Right. So after you do the medical office, and then you said you kind of like helped out with another one, and then it got a little bit more serious from helping to actually like working on them. At what point do you guys kind of look at each other and go, well, we're morphing into life partners. Maybe we should morph into business partners?
That's exactly what happened. We decided, well, we had your brother. We had Keaton. We had our house up here in Mid-Hudson Valley, and which was a weekend house. And Keaton would scream on Monday mornings the entire drive back to New York. For 2 hours, he would scream.
And then fall asleep right when you got there.
Right when I'd
yeah,
get
I
to
know this
Second
story.
Avenue. And we looked at each other and we said, we can't do this anymore. Do you think anybody would care if we were up in, the country?
Yeah, and the history goes to show nobody cares
Well,
because the office has been on a dead-end farm road.
Well, FedEx started just about then, and Stewart Airport also was happening and growing. And so we had our draftsperson coming up twice. He'd spend 2 nights, 3 days in the office, and it just took off.
And this is still the pink
back.
building in New Paltz.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then we decided to build our own office, which
is
did.
still in the Hudson Valley, and we don't have to detail that. Yeah. I'm going to assume you helped design the office.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so I guess I just want to ask a little bit about the office. Did you purposely design it to look like a house and function like an office?
Yes.
Or was it a guest house and then you turned it into an office?
No, it was designed as an office to also double as a residential building because of where it was. They're all residential. We're on a dead-end farm road with lots of farmhouses, so it wasn't going to look like an office building. And Pop's favorite style of cantilevers and without columns had to take precedent over what it was going to look like. It does have a layout that would be quite suitable in the future if it
100%.
became a residence.
Yeah. I remember being, as a kid, very confused when I took this one picture off the wall and there was a washer dryer hookup.
Yes.
And I was like, what? And then I remember going into the bathroom and there's a tub, but there's
bookcases,
a plywood over the tub and bookcases with every industry mix magazine ever. I was like, and it took me a minute to really realize that this was absolutely designed.
And downstairs, the conference room also has it's all plumbed for another kitchen.
Right, as well as that other bathroom.
If it were to be a
not to mention a garage,
a second apartment or
a mother-in-law suite or something. Yeah, right. Whatever. Yeah. So that was a very conscious decision.
Very conscious.
Yeah. Okay. Just curious, because I mean, obviously, it functions great. I mean, 20 plus years of okay.
It's got a proper kitchen.
Yeah. Which I think is more important than you realize in an office with lunches and people stay late and whatever, And
everybody everybody has to cook. Everybody, we have a lot of those kinds of
tying
events.
Back into the culture.
Yeah.
Food, I think.
Gotta like animals and you have to cook.
Yes. It's a dog-friendly office. Well, I could only imagine you like finding the most qualified human being in the world, like on Earth, like a clone of John Storyk, but with a nicer personality. and then he goes, but I'm allergic to dogs. And you just go, bye. Sorry, can't help you. Like we're dogs here. Chico the pug. We had how many number 2s did interns clean of Chico
I'm not
the Pug?
answering this.
Not pleading the 5th. Oh, pleading the 5th. I should have gotten it from Pop.
I didn't clean them up.
I know you didn't. I know he didn't, and I was away. So
Let's move on.
Let's move on. Okay. Yes. So now we're in, I guess, what we would call the final / current office. And I don't know, 20 something years of great success later. 30 something years of great success later. Mm-hmm. You now completely turn and go full circle, some would say, back to painting.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's also our little construction.
Oh yeah, I guess
business.
before that,
which is a passion of mine.
Yeah, and that I'm trying to remember how that even started. So obviously, I moved here.
Well, it started by seeing that
gas station.
Gas station.
Right. But first I move here, and then you start like Zillow and Realtor.com hunting aggressively, and using our realtor. But I would say you found more than she did, and you keep circling back, even though we're not commercial developers. You keep circling back, probably because it's just caught your eye. This beautiful, it was only like $80,000 at the time, abandoned corner gas station. It's a brick 50s gas station.
Golf,
and
an old golf
An old
station.
golf, if golf existed.
It was historic. We actually found it in a book.
Right. I forgot about the historic part. But so we want it for not really a reason other than it's cool.
We don't know what we're going to do with it.
Right. We just look at it and go, it's cool.
And it was in a funky section of town.
Still is very funky. And then we notice, I don't remember the exact course of events of who.
We wanted to drive around the block, and right next door we notice.
Right behind it, it's a house for sale.
There's a house for sale, and I called up right there and then, and got it for $24,000.
Yeah, I think you're right. 23 something.
Yeah.
Keaton and I had to go to the closing with Kevin Stuman, who's been on the podcast.
And
actually,
that started as that started a whole.
Yeah, I mean that started a whole nother chapter of, you
refurbishing these.
But also, I should say, for a half a second of life, you and Pop and one of Pop's ex softball players partnered up and did design and build new construction homes in the Hudson Valley. I think there were maybe
residences,
3 without a client, 2 with clients before they started construction. And one could argue you were successful. And so obviously you come from.
Oh, there's more than that. There was the Martin Avenue. There were 3 down on.
Oh, okay. So I'm just missing a few, but there were a bunch. There were a lot of houses and success, and the partner was a general contractor in the Hudson Valley. So obviously the design from the commercial perspective, you guys have that, but not to say you didn't have a lot of residential experience, but all of a sudden you start doing these houses. So it wasn't like when we decided to do this thing in North Carolina, it wasn't so far out of left field. I mean, building a new construction is actually easier.
It is actually.
Yeah. So we buy this house, and at the time, I'm studying for my license. We get a permit as a home correction. We don't even get a permit. I make my plumber get a permit just as a plumber.
Well, we were the owners.
We were the owners, but still, we didn't get a building permit. It's fine. It's in the past. We didn't do anything wrong, and we've since sold the house. We made corner cutting mistakes, but nothing negligent at all. And we successfully, I might add, take a drug corner and prostitution workstation and turn it into a rentable house that we rent out. And I mean, we gutted that thing. I mean, it's got new insulation, new wires, new pipes, new HVAC. It didn't have HVAC. We jacked up and supported the foundation. We leveled the floor. We put in new floor. We put in a staircase. We added a bathroom. We redid the roof. We put in all new windows. I mean, we literally new sheetrock. I mean, new paint. There's nothing on that house that's original other than 90% of the foundation and the exterior siding. Like, except for the part I had to patch. Like, it's basically a brand new house. It would have been easier to take a bulldozer to it.
Well, we've taken those classic cottages and we refurbished them, which is, it's hard to even find them anymore.
Yes, it's hard to find them in a financial envelope that makes sense, because with the way that the market has moved, that $24,000 house, A, doesn't exist, and B, if you could find it, there's a $100,000 bidding war because a developer is just going to bulldoze it. But we decided that we wanted to do something very niche, which is buy a house. So far, it's not niche. Buy a house, gut a house, make it brand new. That's actually, a lot of people are doing that. But where we decided we wanted to do something different was, instead of immediately flipping them to make 10 to 50 grand immediately, we decided to put them on the market as rental properties. And not so slowly, we now have 8 or 9. We have a nice stable of rental properties.
They're not cookie cutter either.
No, there's nothing cookie cutter about them.
And the materials that we pick are very sustainable and for the long haul. They're not things. Some of the houses 5 years later, they look as good as they did on day one.
Yeah, and let's talk about some of those things, because some of those things. I'm sure there's developers listening who are very curious, and even renters who are very curious. Like, well, my apartment doesn't look good. So we did specific things that we very much went out of the way and talked about doing. And then we just did some other things because we like high quality. So one thing right off the bat is we don't use Formica countertops in bathrooms or kitchens. We use low level 1 granite. And the main reason is 2 Formicas is more than 1 granite. And if you put a pot on the Formica without a trivet or whatever they're called, you're going to burn a hole. You're going to burn a circle in that Formica. And you might not care as the renter, but I have to replace that when you move out before the next tenant. So if I buy granite once, I don't have to redo 1 or however many Formicas.
You can go back a step. A lot of developers are stamping out the program of their renovation without a designer, and we have the luxury that we have an in-house designer.
Yes.
We have an in-house architect. We have an in-house designer. We have an in-house GC. We have an in-house contractor, and so our level of design is up a notch as well. We're going to put in barn doors. We're going to put in, the color scheme is going to be very
and each house is different. We haven't taken a checklist and just go, let's make them all the same.
Except, I think, for the orange door.
That's one element that I can't get enough of because it's my color.
Just saying. Yeah. But that's okay. That's okay. We like that. But, we don't carpet the bedrooms just because that would be the less expensive way to go. They're all wood flooring.
But also, is it the less expensive way to go? Because once again,
you have
if
to
you carpet
redo it every time
single time.
Every time someone moves out.
Whereas you, through your WSDG life and connections, have have access to products that a regular residential builder might not. Depot. Exactly. So you get us, and we are a huge fan of commercial grade glue down floor. And when I say commercial, I mean offices, 20,000 feet every hour. And this stuff holds up. We allow pets. This stuff holds up everything. I mean, we've had to replace maybe 3 little planks due to a scraped piece from a metal bed frame. And also, it's not snap and click. So you just cut out the one square, scrape the glue, and put down a new piece. So it really does hold up, easy to replace, completely waterproof. We do one house, one flooring, no transition strips. That makes the flooring install cheaper. That makes cleaning easier. There's just, things like that. We use a higher quality of cabinet.
Each space flows into the other space. So
yeah. We We use a higher quality of cabinet.
Yes.
I will go over certain things with my electrician that might be above code, like separating some things on different circuits, even though they could be on the same circuit. Again, perfectly okay by code, but I just don't want my tenant to plug in their vacuum cleaner and the lights flicker. Let's just avoid that because they think there's a problem when in fact it's just a lot of power being pulled and LEDs, and sometimes that happens. But for very little money, I could have my electrician put in 2 circuits and just separate that kind of thing. There's certain things that we can do in terms of we choose to spray foam insulate. That just creates a stronger house, better air seal. It doesn't necessarily benefit us, but we know it's an amazing product, and we know that our tenants will have better efficiency bills. And also our HVAC systems should last and hold up better over time. So things that necessarily would make absolutely no sense when you're flipping, but we want to make, I'm the one who's going to get the call when it's broken.
There's
so
a longevity factor here.
Yeah. Or like putting in blocking so that, putting blocking in the bathroom so that I can have a piece of wood to screw the towel bar into. It sounds so simple, but like how, the tenant doesn't care if that towel bar rips out of the wall. They give 2 Fs. But I've got to patch the hole, move it over, get drywall anchors, X, Y, Z, 2 hours of my day. But if I do it once the right time with some blocking and some real screws into the wood, you could do pull-ups from it. And it's just a different zone. So there's, little things like that. Our newest house, we, for just out of our pocket, put in a whole second driveway. But when you start looking at the house and how much a house with another driveway would rent for, plus another parking spot would rent for, plus there's a shed that you can now get to, like, it just made sense. But someone who's just flipping, they might not care about that. They'll let the new person decide if they want a driveway or whatever. And then another big thing that we do that I thought of and I'm rather proud of is I put in a high centralized coax and outlet for Wi-Fi, because the internet's no longer a luxury. It is now a requirement. Homeschool, internet systems, Netflix, you name it.
Well, we do the layouts of what all these rooms are supposed to kind of end up being used for. And so you can designate where this is going to go in a bedroom, so it just makes it neater and cleaner, and you come in and that works.
Yeah.
And we do it before.
Yeah. But I think we do it before. And then I think there's a benefit to, I get legitimate input from current tenants, which is invaluable. Because I'll get, after move-in day or after move-out day, I'll get, hey, by the way, this closet location is the worst thing we've ever seen.
Have we gotten that?
Yes, we have gotten that.
Which one?
Closet right by the front door, Ruth 1. They said it was the worst location. They nicked the wall 100 times, move in and move out. It blocked the living room, wasn't a great storage. Like, it just overall bad idea. But on paper was flawless. And it's one of those things where it's like, we double and triple checked as much as you can, but there's no substitute for building it and having a human live in it for 8 months before they move into one of our other houses, which is exactly what happened, actually. And they, were like, well, this house is great. This closet's just terrible. Like, it blah, 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 whatever it may have been. And, we didn't necessarily rip a closet out of a design in the next house, but, we listen and we factor that stuff in. Other things like using all LED. That doesn't really benefit us. That benefits the longevity of the home.
You have no choice now. You have to use all LEDs.
Okay, maybe that's not what I meant. All recessed LEDs. That more is for the, okay, that's going to be awesome when we sell the house. That doesn't necessarily help the tenant, though it does. We seem to get our houses rented in like 5 days. So maybe that's just because they're that nice. But, I think they're nice because we sweat and bleed for them. So coming back again to more full circle of the like life story, I guess you do a little bit not a little bit, you jump into this kind of home design thing with, partner/family, which has its own giant set of complications and giant set of gratifications. And we don't have to dive into all of that. And then while doing that, you're still very much in WSDG. And then what changes for you to go, I really need to pull back a little / a lot from WSDG and jump back into painting all the way full circle back to 6th grade?
Well, when I'm painting, there seems to be a connection between what is coming right out of my fingers to that brush, to that canvas. And sometimes something seems to take over that I'm not 100% in control over. It sounds a little strange, but
I don't think it sounds that strange. I don't feel it for painting, but I feel that.
And the reaction that I'm getting towards a lot of my work recently, and at the same time, I've kind of gone back to school where I'm just learning. I've never drew the human figure before, the human form, and I'm really enjoying getting into that. So there's and even taking the florals and the Tuscan landscapes to another level. It just keeps making me smile.
And what's your preferred? Is it acrylics or oil paints?
Oil. I love working with oils, but I also love working with, drawing with different inks and watercolors and different mixed media and combining the two. Watering down the oils and over ink. I mean, you just get all these different effects. So I'm enjoying. It's new. It's not as if I'm going back to what I used to do. I'm doing things that I never did before. So after 30 some odd years of basically doing not the same thing, but it was a bit repetitive. It grew, but it was still repetitive. I'm now doing something different every time I open up start a new canvas.
And for those who want to check it out, what's your website?
BethWalters-Storyk.com.
BethWalters-Storyk.com. There you go. There's some amazing
starting to
pieces.
Show in galleries.
And they're for sale.
Yeah, they are.
Use code OrangeHammer for a 1% discount. No.
Well, no.
There's no code. There's no discount. Just buy the work. It's amazing. So my last question I thought of after Pop's interview. Do you see everything and think that's art? Like in life?
Mm-hmm.
Because Pop was kind of saying that, he was saying, he loves museums, and obviously you love museums. And I was like, Mom would die to hear this, but museums don't do it for me. I walk through a museum with a bunch of paintings and I go, okay, cool. It's a painting of a dude from the 1500s. And I hate to say it, I just don't care. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't pull my heartstrings. But, you lost me when I was 7 years old and you found me staring at a Jackson Pollock painting for an hour. That obviously spoke to me. So I might not see everything and think it's art, but obviously there is a level of, especially when you've built it. I am an artist in my own way. I build a deck. It might be square and simple, but there was no deck. Now there is a deck, and that's my art. And it might not be as fascinatingly mesmerizing as Da Vinci freehanding a circle, but it's my art. So it's just, I guess, a matter of levels. So obviously I know you're a museum person and you do walk through a museum and you see paintings and they move you. But when you walk outside and see, somebody's garden, does that have the same effect?
It's not just museums. It goes back a little bit to this theory I have about life being a puzzle. When you do study a little bit of history or art history, and you do travel, and you do go to different museums, and you see different types of architecture, and you see different modes of dress, and you see carpets being made, and you see people in China weaving furniture, which is all wicker furniture is handmade. No one ever thinks about that, because you can buy it so cheaply. But someone's actually bending, wood.
Soaking them and bending, yeah.
So when you start seeing all these things, and I was always drawn to Impressionist painters, okay? Monet's water lilies or, says all of them. And the more you see them and you go, wow, and you understand their life or what turned them on or how they got to even, do what they do. Now I notice that there's little bits and pieces of a lot of this in the work I'm doing. And it's not that I'm copying them. It's just that I've absorbed it. It's become part of me. I own it. I get so turned on by it that I can't help but express it somehow. If I'm driving through a neighborhood, and it could be a funky neighborhood, I'm going to see some kind of relationships between what's there, and I hope, it's like, you're looking at finding the beauty in something, or are you tearing it down? And I guess maybe that's why we like to rebuild these houses. There's something about them, as funky as they are. There's something about them that we can bring back to life.
Yeah, and we can also
so it comes full circle. It's all related.
We have as a group, we have a unusual ability to look through the junk, as we like to say, especially physical junk.
Well, I have more of an ability than you do.
Yes, that's why I said as a group. Yeah. You're part of that group that can look.
Whoa, maybe don't throw out that fireplace thing.
Or I more meant just like a house is full of trash, and we could be like, well, we want the bones. We don't care about the trash. Right. We're going to get a dumpster either way.
Which we just did. It took 7 dumpsters and 5
What are you talking about?
Yancy.
7?
How many?
17.
Oh, really? I've been telling people 7.
Well, you've been lying.
I didn't realize.
Oh, man.
I know.
Yeah, 1-800-DRUNK screwed up. Yeah, and I'm shouting out their name. I know I've said on this podcast no negative shout-outs, but they're worth shouting out because they made it right. And that's why they're worth shouting out. They sent guys. They gave me an estimate. I said, no way. This is what I'm willing to do. This is what I'm willing to pay. And they said, sure. And then they got like halfway through the job and realized they were eating their shirt and wanted the money. And I was like, you need to realize there's no scenario where the job's not done and you get anything. So what do you want to do? And then they proceeded to tell me that they were like bringing their 1-800 junk trucks and filling them and driving them to the dump. And I was like, guy, I supplied you a corner house. Box this house in with 6 dumpsters. Stop driving.
Well, there's no backstory here, but
the backstory is we bought a house that a hoarder lived in.
Right.
Yeah. And when I say hoarder, everybody, I mean the show.
Yeah.
Show. This building had high ceilings, and it was floor to ceiling boxes.
12-foot ceilings.
12-foot ceilings. Floor to ceiling. It was like wood shelves on top of cinder blocks to create shelving units full of like file, paper style, Staples style boxes of just junk and papers and roaches and dead animals that I did not have to go through. and I'm pretty sure the crawl space is still full. And it was just awful. Like, it was so bad. It was so bad. It was the show Hoarders, but there was no person.
Calm down.
Yeah, it was so bad. Oh my God! Like the windows were like covered in stuff. Couldn't see in.
Yeah, well, you can see in now.
You can see in now. Now it is clear.
Done, yeah.
Beautiful hardwood floors. Well, we're gonna take that.
They will be.
We're gonna take that coal and press it into a diamond, I'm sure. So, I guess we can end on that great note. I mean,
Part B, renovation.
That'll be part B. Absolutely. That'll be a great renovation. That'll be a great podcast. And, we just keep looking around for the love, the art, and the passion, right? And Happy New Year.
You too. Happy New Year.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.